I'm Stefan, I'm running for president.
Yay! I'm Shana. I'm going to be running for the general representative on MSA, which is the Monash Student Council, and I'm also going to be running as a representative on SAC, which is the Student Affairs Committee. And running with me is Lucas for MSA and Erin for SAC. And then we also got two candidates for WAC, which is the Women's Affairs Committee, and that's Erin and Emily Kate. So we've got 5 candidates running. We're all really enthusiastic. We've all been involved in the Greens for a while. I've been involved for maybe 4 years. I think Erin as well. I don't know about Stefan. But yeah, we're all enthusiastic about running. We're hoping that some of our new members, we've got about 40 members of our club, so we're hoping that we'll get them all involved and excited too.
They're already excited. We're just waiting. Obviously, being the Greens, public transport is pretty high on our agenda. What?
Yeah.
We've all been involved in the PT for Me Too campaign, just as general people publicising and so on. And
what's the website?
ptforme2.org.au.
And so obviously that affects students who, it affects students and the environment in that we can't get to uni from a lot of places, and so a lot of people are having to drive. The uni's putting up the price of parking all the time, and it's just, it's polluting for so many people to be having to drive still, and 2, it's just getting increasingly too expensive for students to drive. So it's quite unequitable to have so many students having to drive to uni still.
Yeah. Well, obviously, for practically since Monash has been invented, there's been a plan for a rail line along the centre of North Road. It's just never, the investment of funds has never been done. And with all the issues that have been coming up, with the Eddington report on basically that we're in crisis transport-wise in Melbourne, we think this is absolutely the ideal time to finally follow through on that plan. So yeah, if you head to ptforme2.org.au, it's got all the info. We're not the organisers, we're just advocates. But the plan is to get a rail line all the way through from Huntingdale, Huntingdale I think, to Roevale, and this will go straight by Monash, so you won't have to deal with the deviation by the 630 or the 900 or whichever, waiting for buses, which is annoying.
And we'll also send a train line out to Roevale, which currently has no train line or is not even close to a train line, even though that's a huge growth area, and there's a lot of population out there who's forced to drive everywhere. So that will also be a positive. But the PT for Me Too campaign, it's a petition online just to get the government to look into the proposal, because currently the government is not even interested in even considering the feasibility of a train line out this way.
That's right, of course it's possible for them to build a huge giant tunnel underneath the entire city, but to even consider building a train line, it's out there. So yeah, we want to change that perception. So regarding preferences, we've gone first for the groups that have the most natural affinity with the Greens agenda. First would be Activate, since they're the entrenched grassroots left organisation here on campus. They've been here for many years and they've been quite reliable. Second, we've gone for Left Action. And after that, it was a very difficult decision between Go and Universal being the two main tickets. We've tried to avoid feeder tickets where possible. They're joke tickets that are intended basically to, well, we won't say deceive, but to at least, they're slightly misleading in their action, in that they're put out there just as jokes and people vote for them for a laugh, but that is actually going to one of the main parties. And it was a very difficult decision between Go and Universal, who are the two major parties at these elections. We've preferenced Go candidates in certain circumstances, but overall we've preferenced Universal. That is basically because Go and Universal both have been quite heterogeneous groups of people. Like, there's a core of organised people, but most of the candidates have just come in from everywhere. There isn't any fixed political agenda between them. And Go have been incumbent for the past 3 years, and we've found ourselves agreeing with a few of Universal's difficulties with with their position?
I guess as far as our preferencing goes, there's been a few, questions around our choice of preferences. From what I've heard, the main contention exists as to the order of our preferencing of Go. When we were deciding whether or not to preference Go or their main competition, Universal, it was a difficult choice. There wasn't a lot of information regarding the candidates. There were a lot of rumours flying around, a lot of unsubstantiated rumours, a lot of unsubstantiated allegations flying around. And so it made our choice quite difficult, seeing how none of us have been involved in student politics before. We don't know who these people are, we don't know their past except for these rumours. So when making those decisions, we really had to just go on an individual basis, which is why we preferenced Adam Taranto of Go, because we know him personally, and we've seen how hard he works for his position as welfare officer, so we thought he was a really valuable person to have on a committee. As far as Green's policies go, their relevance to students, I think one of the major policies would be our education policy. It's Green's policy to completely abolish HECS. I can't really find a student who would disagree with that policy. I think HECS is a huge burden on students. You finish uni, you've spent 4 years being poor and struggling, you finally get a job, and then you're burdened with this enormous debt. Also, Greens would be abolishing the VSU legislation, and we're definitely trying to actively campaign our new federal government to do something about that.
Obviously, we don't think that we can achieve this on our own as just one student union, but we really want to get the ideas out there. Give people realise, it's not just negotiating around the margins. There was a time when, things like HECS just wasn't considered. It was back, it was in our parents' time. If you ask them, all of them that went to uni, they got sponsored massively through that. And that is something that our government still has the capacity to do. So, yeah, we just want to really get that back on the debate table.
We have a huge surplus, and it's just sitting there supposedly keeping inflation in check. Whereas I think that, I don't have a degree in economics, so I couldn't tell you whether it would work or not, but I think definitely investing a decent amount of money in education would go a long way.
Obviously, as the Greens, one of our central, probably our core agenda issue at the moment is climate change, and dealing with this is going to be the defining challenge of our generation that we have to face up to. And at the moment, we just haven't seen any action we're satisfied with from either of the major parties, where Kevin Rudd has put a lot of rhetoric into it. He's ratified the Kyoto Protocol, which was a good first step, but it was the first step from 10 years ago that needed to be taken. Now we're seeing that far more drastic targets are needed. And so obviously, one of our key targets is going to be doing everything we can on campus to reduce our individual impacts on climate change. The public transport stuff we talked about earlier will feed into that. But also, there are so many things we can do. Like the community garden is an excellent initiative that was taken recently, and there's so much more that could be done with that if just a bit of funding and a bit of coordination was put into it. Also, biomass, we could get really good composting systems set up and greater tree planting. I'm looking around here, I'm seeing still fairly desolate areas where that's one of the things we're lucky about at Monash Clayton. We have so much space, and at the moment it's not being utilised as efficiently as it could be.
I think another campaign that students have been campaigning on for quite a few years now is to get the campus changed to 20% renewable energy. I think so far the uni is making some progress towards this goal, but I don't think they're actually on target to achieve that goal by, I think, 2010, I think was the time frame that we were aiming for. So I think a strong campaign from the union to the university administration would probably help that.